Hello, hello. I hope everybody is doing great. I hope you're in good spirits, and I hope this week has really brought about some meditation, positivity. I hope you've been praying, steadfast in your praying, and I hope you are ready to just tap in. Before I begin, I want to shout out three people, and I'm just going by their usernames that took the time to actually review the podcast, and that is AOJ027. Chelly 999444. Girl, you got a whole bunch of zeros and some threes. And Lola Bunny 88. I really appreciate you guys just tapping in and taking the time to again give me some feedback. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna get into today's podcast and I want to talk about something that I feel like a lot of us has experienced. I tapped into this earlier on one of my episodes and talked about the separation of friendship, but I really want to go deep. And today's episode is the isolation period. Many people that I know personally and just in conversations talk about the isolation period and how it feels so lonely. And I want to describe the isolation period for you just in case you need clarity or you're not sure if you're going through it or, you're not there yet. The isolation period is a moment in time that you experience a drop off of a lot of people. It may come in the change and a self-awareness of yourself. Things that, made you happy or you did at a point in time. It's like the growth and maturity just, it allows you to gain space into different parts of living. And so therefore the things that you did before, you're good off of that, right? You want to experience life differently. It could also come in the form of, a falling out with a friend or a family member where this person or particular people took up space in your life and now it's no longer. And now you are at a point where you're sitting to yourself by yourself and you feel like you are lonely. So one thing about separating from people also that I think we are aware of, but maybe we don't say out loud, is when we separate from someone, it does leave a void, whether it is, again, through like moving, a person moves away, or we just are not talking anymore. It brings about, like a loss or a grief. And what happens is now all of those moments we have to sit with ourselves. But what I've learned in the isolation period is that first it does start off lonely because you're like, what do I do now? I'm sitting with myself and I feel like this is the right move, right? Because you do feel a sense of relief regardless of what the situation posed. You feel a sense of relief because situations or people no longer put you on edge, or you just get an abundance of freedom. But then it's a confusing period because you don't know what to do. The isolation period will also show you how people really are and what they perceive and take from you as an individual. Again, there could be a falling out. Let's just say it was a falling out with, family member, friend, or whatever, and y'all exchange words. They said some things and they shared some things with you, and now because of that clarity and their truthfulness, you walked away from it just being self-aware, number one, of maybe some of the truths that they have said about you, but then also the awareness of knowing that their infliction upon you was one of anger, and therefore separation is needed. I want to preface this with saying this before I go too far into it. One thing about the isolation period that I've personally learned, and I've heard so many people saying this as well, is, whether you are religious or not, just hear me out. I really believe that God allows things to happen for so long until, He just drums up situations for you to really see the light. If you are a person who has a heart where you are the mender, regardless of what happens, what situations arise, you'll rise above and you'll try to mend situations. God will show that though your heart is great, right? You cannot be naive in the way in which people walk over you and treat you. And so God snatches them out of your life. He exposes people and situations for you to become wise and mature in the way in which you lead from that point on. And it is a necessity because the place in which you will journey to and bridge in, you have to have some form of wisdom. It's like having a weapon. You go and there's a battle ahead and you are ill prepared for the battle. God knows it. And he allows you to see what you're up against. You try to fight it with all of your might because you're in the battle. But God has to also take you out for a minute so you can sit and see just what you were up against. And when he removes it, he allows you to go through again. And so now that you have gained, this power and this weaponry, right? Wisdom, knowledge, self-respect, self-awareness, you can move on to the next level, because I just really believe that in order for us to get what it is that God has for us, we cannot blindly move through this journey in life. The isolation period is one of those things that I feel like we all have to experience. If by the way in which we've always shown up is from day one to the end, is how we lead our life, we would never get anything accomplished. I think the worst thing about the isolation period, in congruence and connection to family members, is that your tie is much, much closer and enriched, right? Family for a lot of people is everything, regardless of the ups and downs that you have gone through. They are the lineage, and you stand very connected to family. But when you have to journey beyond where they are, it is a point of contention, and where you will see just who they are as a person, that regardless of how strong you are, strong-minded, strong-willed, it will hurt you. I want to say this again. We have to recognize that family are people, and they will operate just like regular people. I know that tie for a lot of people means a lot, and we feel like we have to give them a little bit of leniency because they are the lineage to us and who we are. They're not a friend, they're family. But again, I'm going to repeat this. Family operates just like people. And if it is toxic behavior, if it is people just pulling you away from where you need to go, God will expose that as well. They're no different in God's eyes. And there are just some places, I've said this so many times, that you have to go that people cannot go with you. So take this isolation period when you're sitting with yourself and you realize all of the people that you were around and all of the things that you knew that is no longer. Sit with yourself and have some self-reflection. The isolation period also reminds me of darkness. Darkness is scary when you sit there for a long time because you can't see. You cannot see your way out. You don't know what's next to you. You have to blindly move in faith and know that you will be okay. And in the darkness, in the moment of separation and stillness, in the moment of isolation and self-reflection, Those are when your best ideas are conjured up. That is when the best prayers are prayed. That is when you have to lean on your faith and you have to move mountains. It is awesome to have people around you to move you. But what does that say about you if you have to stand and sit in that place and move for yourself? As soon as you come out of the isolation period, because look, it sounds, it's a needed process. It sounds horrible when you say it, isolation period. But I'm going to get to the joy, okay? The isolation period, once you come out of it and you begin to emerge, you become a renewed being. Everything that you said that you wanted to do, everything that you said that you wanted to make as a goal will start to flourish. And the beautiful thing about sitting in isolation is many times you will find people who has been through the process and find you. You will find the tribe of people who connect to you. It's almost like I see you. I recognize who you are, and now we're connected. And those new connections will bring about so much of what you prayed for. Because remember, pre the isolation period, you were surrounded by people and things that weren't serving your best interest, right? God was allowing you to move along, but He needed you to do something more powerful. He needed you to be a representation of His army. Therefore, He had to snatch you out of that situation. And now, out of that isolation period, and with you emerging, you become this butterfly amongst other beautiful butterflies. And now y'all are interconnected into a journey that has unfolded under God's will. I won't say that the moments will be all happy, right? Because any kind of transition just feels very uncomfortable. Because you don't know what's ahead. It's almost like a roller coaster. Anybody who has been on a roller coaster, y'all, I'm dead scared of roller coasters. But that's the best analogy that I can use, standing in front of and looking at this big old roller coaster that has twists and turns, and knowing, all right, you got to gear yourself up for the ride. Getting on the ride, you move fast. Heart is just racing, and you are waiting for the moment in which you go up high, right? And then you go down low. You are in anticipation of just getting it over with. The isolation period is going up high to the peak, sitting there for a moment, going down low, because now you are going through the process of what you're experiencing, the back end, the feelings that you never thought you would feel out of isolation, the questioning of yourself, is this really the journey for me? The wanting to get in contact with the people that you left on the other side that God said, wanting to dibble and dabble into the places in which you are used to, right? God said, So you've gone down in this roller coaster, and then you go through the twists and turns because now you're by yourself and you got to figure this thing out, right? You praying, you're asking God to take you through. You just want to get to the end because you're tired. It is a tiring process. And when you get to the end, and the roller coaster ride is almost at its end, you know how it goes. You go all the way down and it kind of slows down, and you grab your composure, right? Your heart starts to kind of, regulate a little bit, and you calm yourself down. You still got the adrenaline rush. you could come to a complete stop, and then you're settled. You walk off and you remember the experience of the roller coaster ride, and you're good. It was an experience. You could talk about it, but you're good. The isolation period is a moment, a journey that we all need, because we have to come out of being our mediocre, bland self. God is wanting for all of us to show up different, and He nudges and pulls in His own way based upon how He knows it can be delivered to you, so that He can, number one, show you the goodness of yourself, right? Number two, show you some things on the other side that He needs you to see. And number three, God needs all of us to be representative of the kingdom. And He will do any and everything to let you know that He is who He is, and that He got some things to show you on the other side, but you gotta come and you have to be isolated. I will tell you that coming out of the other end of the isolation period for me personally has been so much of a resurgence. And the type of people that I meet now meet me where I am now, at what I feel like is the best place I've been in a very long time. I get to meet wise and mature people who want to have the same kind of conversations that I have. And I am introduced to people who have far more wisdom and who are teaching me about life, living, and God. I don't want you to be afraid. Number one, in this moment of isolation and feeling like you're doomed and life is over, I want you to take this moment to just be still in you and know that everything is working for your good. Let God do the work. Let God see you through. Sit still and quit being anxious. I mean, it's the comparison of parents and a child. Like, we don't want to stay still because we feel like we got some things we need to be doing, or we need to backtrack, or no, God is saying, be still. I got something for you on the other side. And when you come out of it, I'm going to show you as proof of what I promised for you, my child. I want you to take a moment to breathe. If you have come out of the isolation period and you hear the sound of my voice, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you are in the process, do not be afraid, because this is a moment that you need and is warranted. If you have not yet gone through the isolation process, I want you to be ready whenever it happens. When you begin to see the drop off in people, when everything that you've currently doing is not so exciting, don't be scared. It is the movement that you need. Thank y'all so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Again, you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram. I have a personal page, Lisa Marie. Got a whole bunch of hyphens and underscores. You can follow me on my podcast page, Season Dialogue. And you can also follow me on TikTok. All of my handles are somewhere y'all can locate it in the podcast. It has been a blessing. I hope to see you guys next week with another word, another connection. Thank you so much for just being you. And